Hey guys, this is Professor Riya from ICSE Point. I'm here back again with a fun activity for you. So what do you think these balls represent? I give you 3 seconds. Okay, time up. I guess you all guessed it correct. And yes, these balls represent atoms. So in my previous video, I was discussing about pure substances and impure substances. Today, let's discuss about elements, compounds and mixtures. Okay, so let's start with what are elements. What is an element? An element is a pure substance. It is something like these two clay balls. It is capable of forming bonds. It has its own individual identity and something like this clay. ये yellow color का clay could not be broken down into further simple substances. So similarly, elements also cannot be broken down into further simple substances. The entire periodic table, the 118 symbols which you look, are nothing but elements. Elements could be further classified as metals, non-metals, metalloids, and last is noble gases. So to sum up, what is an element? An element is a pure substance which cannot be broken down into more simpler substances, and yes, the entire 118 elements are classified as metals, non-metals, metalloids and noble gases. Examples for in metals, you can say sodium, potassium, calcium. Non-metals, all the gases which you know about, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. Metalloids, and examples of metalloids may be boron and silicon. And lastly, noble gases would be the ones which do not react with anyone, as you all know, helium, argon, neon, krypton, xenon, etc. So what is a compound? When I mix these two elements together, when these two elements are combining, this is what forms a compound. So compound is nothing but combination of two simple elements or combination of two atoms in a fixed ratio gives me a compound. Compound is again a pure substance. Why pure substance? Because it is made up of elements. It is not having any other additional impurities or any other foreign particles involved in it. Here this clay combination has only two colors, yellow and green, which is combined in a fixed ratio to form a compound. This is what is a compound. Example, you can take water, you can take any acids, in that case hydrochloric acid, sulfuric acid. All these are nothing but what? Compounds which are formed in specific ratios. So lastly, what is a mixture? A mixture is basically again combination of two or more elements or compounds or both in any proportion. What do you mean by any proportion? There is no fixed commitment कि हाइड्रोजन के 2 atoms होने चाहिए, ऑक्सीजन का 1 होना चाहिए तो ही compound बनेगा, which is in the case of compound water. But in mixtures, any number of atoms or any number of compounds can combine to form a mixture. Something like this. In this clay, I remove a fixed proportion from yellow and some proportion from green. And I start mixing them. I start actually mixing them. Here, what is formed is nothing but a mixture. So, mixture is basically an impure substance which is formed by combination of two or more elements or compounds or both in any proportion. There is no fixed ratio in which you are supposed to combine the atoms to form a mixture. Now mixtures can be of two types. One which is inseparable, which is called as heterogeneous mixture. मैम एक बार mix कर लिया तो उसको वापस separate नहीं कर सकते. Now in this case, it is very difficult for me to separate green and yellow back. It is very difficult for me to get back the green and the yellow color in its original form. But if these two I am mixing in such a way such that I can reform yellow and green back, this is a homogeneous mixture where I can actually back separate my original compounds. which is green and yellow. So this is a homogeneous mixture where I can separate my compounds, and here this is a heterogeneous mixture in which it is impossible for me to separate the constituent elements. So examples for heterogeneous mixtures would be something like lime soda, fresh lime which you prepare at home, even normal tea which you have it at your place. Mumbai Bale is also an example of what? Heterogeneous mixture. Then what comes out to be a homogeneous mixture? Ma'am, oil plus water is a homogeneous mixture. So homogeneous mixture mein oil and water I can separate, so it's an example of what? Homogeneous mixture. Whereas the other examples which I gave you varies from person to person. In fresh lime soda, the amount of salt, the amount of sugar and lime which you add is different from person to person, and hence it's a heterogeneous mixture, and to separate from fresh lime, sugar and lime is not possible, and hence it's a heterogeneous mixture. To end with, what is the difference between a compound and a mixture? A very common question which a lot of kids come to me about. Ma'am, what is then the difference between? Both are combination of elements. So then what is the difference between a compound and a mixture? Let us understand. While I was explaining you what is a compound, I had mentioned it to you that compound is nothing but combination of elements in a fixed ratio. Whereas when it comes to mixtures, the ratio in which the elements or the atoms combine is not fixed. It depends from case to case and from person to person. Next, when it comes to compounds, the individual elements do not retain their original properties, whereas in case of mixture, elements do retain their original properties. Example, in water, hydrogen and oxygen do not retain their original property of combustion, whereas when they combine, water is a non-supporter of combustion. But when I am considering mixtures may, let us take Bombay Bale, even if you are removing out a peanut, it will taste the same which would taste it otherwise. So the properties of individual elements retain when it comes to mixtures, but it does not retain when it comes to compounds. The particles in a compound cannot be separated by physical means. You need to have some chemical setup, or you need to have chemically separable things to separate the elements of compounds. Whereas in case of mixtures, you can very easily separate them. Let us take the same example of the Bombay Bale. If you do not like peanuts, you can just quickly remove them by physical means. So this is when it comes to compounds and mixtures. I hope you all understood today what is the difference between elements, compounds and mixtures. And if you have any doubts, put them in the comment section below. For more such videos, subscribe to our channel. Till that time, see you next time.